Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars on what has to be one of the shittiest, muggiest, most humid, horrible Florida June mornings of all time. And I'm out here dripping, sweating, fogged up glasses, doing a video on this Samurai, and I'm just miserable. Absolutely miserable. For the record, it's a 1987 Samurai JX Hardtop. When's the last time you saw one of these? I mean, we'll get into all that in a minute, but you know, I've got that place in North Carolina. I'm planning the move up there, but I have so many loose ends down here and so much crap to move and figure out that I'm just stuck. I'm going to get up there in a little over a week, and I'm going to stay. I'm doing a remodel on the house, which has turned into a nightmare, but I hear that's normal. So I'm going up there for a couple weeks to get that going and hopefully enjoy some marginally cooler weather than what we have here. Certainly less humidity, I hope. I'll be up in the mountain part of it, and that'll be a little bit blissful. But in the meantime, I'm stuck here. And I know that I haven't done many videos. In fact, been MIA for quite some time, and that is all a result of trying to get everything going, trying to get cars out of there, moved, finished, done, houses moved, shops moved, all of which is going at a ridiculously slow pace, and flies. We've got flies. I mean, where did they all come from? What do they want with the Samurai anyway? I mean, I'm sure there's a nice, pile of deer poop around here somewhere they could be attacking, and now they're on the Samurai. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I can't even promise there'll be more videos upcoming with any kind of regularity. I have a 190E that's going to go and bring a trailer. It's a pretty nice car. The Camaro project is almost finished. The wagon project was almost finished, and the self-leveling system is fighting me so hard, and it's such a simple system, and it will not work, that I'm pretty much at the point where I think I'm going to have the car crushed, and I'm going to enjoy watching it be crushed. So that's where I'm at with that thing. And the S10 can't get the four-wheel. Robert the German totally failed at the four-wheel drive and the brake, so I think I'm just going to send that one up to a mechanic in Murphy and let them sort it out, because I just don't. Anyway, look, no one wants to hear all this crap, but that's what's going on. So if you want more frequent updates, you can run over to X. I do post there with some regularity, and you'll know why my life is so miserable and why you haven't seen me much on YouTube. But let's jump into this thing for a minute, because honestly, the less time I spend out here in Peter's driveway, the happier I'm going to be. It is a 1987 Suzuki Samurai. Such an iconic car of the 1980s. I mean, you have to put it in the top 5, if not the top 3, in terms of cars that sort of rocked that decade. I bought it on a trip to North Carolina about, maybe a little over a year ago. It was the most immaculate Sammy I'd ever seen, at least in the last, it might be the only Sammy I'd seen in the last couple decades, but it was remarkable. 40,000 miles, extremely clean. It just blew me away. But, it was a really crowded auction. Cars were going for a ton of money. Chevy Citation did like $8,000, and I was ready to spend like $3,000 on it. So, it just didn't seem like the place to buy anything, so I kind of gave it up. But I was on the phone with a friend of mine, a guy named Patrick, a guy I've known for years. He was a very good high school friend and actually a college roommate for a short time, and he went nuts. He absolutely had to have it. I was instructed to buy it at any price and deliver it to him in Naples, which I did. We ended up making a trade for some silver bars and an old Yamaha motorcycle and a pair of speakers, and that was it. And the world's most perfect Samurai was his. And Patrick, I'll tell you what, he's one of those guys who has one of the rarest things in life, and that is cool parents. His mom was kind of a local luxury realtor, and she drove a new 560 SEL, which in high school we just beat up, took a drive in it and hammered it, and that's when I found out that old Benzes could be fast. More than that, his dad drove an incredibly enviable series of cars for a kid my age. I mean, and neat cars, car guy cars, like Lotus Esprits and Handshaker big block Corvettes and Lamborghini Espadas and that sort of thing. And here's my dad. You know, God rest his soul, and I loved him, but he's driving around in a 76 Toyota Woody wagon and then a diesel Isuzu iMark. I mean, it just wasn't nearly as cool. So Patrick had that great rear thing, which just, you know, we all wish we had, and so few do. And that was pretty cool, pretty cool parents. He also got me hooked on high-end home audio before I could afford any of it. And honestly, I still can't. And we used to wake up like at 5 in the morning on Sunday to watch Formula One races. So he got me into that as well. So he was a great impact, great guy. Honestly, a shame that he ended up in prison. And now I'm kidding. He didn't end up in prison. Anyway, look, I got the thing home to him, and despite it being the cleanest Samurai I'd ever seen, at least in the last 2 decades, he decided to immediately strip it down and give it this miraculous high-end paint job and otherwise mild refreshing. I mean, I was honestly horrified. I mean, the thing had 40,000 miles. It was like a time capsule. It's what I considered mint. He turns his nose up at it. And, you know, the next thing I know, it's in pieces at the body shop being restored. The thing didn't need it. It didn't need it. But he did it anyway, and he spent a fortune. And that's the way Patrick operates. He, you know, he did a fair bit of the amount of work himself on it because, you know, when you look at the flies, oh, get out of here. When you love a car, when it's being done, nobody's going to put as much into it as you will. You know, I'm finding that out with the Camaro. I went through the underneath yesterday and found all the crap that Robert the German left off. So I did, you know, like little hole drilling with silicone around it and then rubber grommet. It's stuff you'd never do unless you really had a deep love affair. And the biggest thing he said he did was grinding out all the old seam sealer all over the car and replacing it with new stuff. Grady's been involved with body shops for years, which is probably why he needed to paint the thing. So he ground off every bit of seam sealer on the car and put in, you know, fancy new 3M stuff. And he said it's the difference between a crappy paint job and one that's exceptional, or at least one of the big differences. So, yeah, fair enough. I trust him on it. And when he shows me all the seam sealer stuff, it looks true. But again, I mean, 40,000 miles, the thing was fine. It was absolutely fine. I'd have just kept it the way it was. He's decided to sell it now, which is why I'm doing this video and why it's going to be on Bring a Trailer, because it gets too much attention. He's something of a private guy. He found the true secret of life's happiness. More than anyone I know, Patrick has figured out the way to be happy, and that's to never marry a woman. And in doing that, he has enjoyed life in a way that, you know, others can be envious of. But he is a private cat, and apparently driving it around, this thing gets more attention than a, you know, bright yellow Lamborghini Diablo being driven by a naked supermodel. It makes everything else invisible around it. Apparently, so many people have fond memories of Samurais that it just stops traffic. And I can attest to that myself because I've driven it for the last couple days. Within 2 minutes of pulling out onto the road from my house, I had a guy in a Tahoe you know, make me put my window down and ask about it. And another 5 miles past that, another guy saying, "Oh my God, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen." And, you know, so I kind of get it. If you're not a guy who likes attention, believe it or not, this little Samurai is something that's going to give you too much of it. But anyway, there it is. So it's going to be listed for sale. Let's do a quick history of the Samurai. It began with the Hope Motor Company in Japan. It started in the 1950s. They were a maker of K cars, not Lee Iacocca's K cars, like KEI or something, which is basically a small class of car in Japan. that avoids taxes if it's under a certain size and under a certain power and displacement and whatnot. And they're very, very popular. And one of the engineers there, they made 3-wheel cars mostly, like the Robin Reliant, which, yeah, there it is. You know, great design concept. But one of the engineers said, hey, let's make a 4-wheel drive version, which they did, or at least they started to. And it was pretty cool. And it was called the ON360. It was powered by a 2-stroke air-cooled Mitsubishi motor that made about 20 horsepower. And even if it was a bit silly, it had awesome off-road capability. But, you know, the company was small, they were underfunded, they didn't have much in the way of assets, and they only ended up making about 15 of the things. These mirrors tilted up, it's making me a little bit crazy. Let's tilt that back down. All right, that looks better. So anyway, they made about 15. At the same time, Suzuki was trying to put together a small 4-wheel drive, and you know they tried to buy something off Mitsubishi, I think, and tried to design something themselves, and then they came across this this Hope thing, this Hope car, and they said, man, they bought the company, and they did it just to start building these things. And a couple of years later, after you know they upgraded the engine, they put in one that was not air-cooled and had 25 horsepower, so they're going a little bit crazy. But in 1970, they released the Jimny, which is honestly a word I don't like saying. It just sort of offends me. I think of, you know, I'm not even going to get into it, but it just, you know, I think of the Jimmy and in America, the GMC and Jiminy Christmas, and I don't know, the name Jimny just bugs me. It's one of those words that just bugs me. But they released it. It was a small 4x4. It was the only 4x4 K car at the time in Japan. And it took off. It started selling like absolute hotcakes. Enough so they had to keep producing more of them, and then started selling them globally. Even in Australia, it was made as a pickup truck called the Stockman or something, I think, with 40 horsepower. And, you know, they were just selling all over the world. And because it was rugged, it was simple, it did the job that it was intended to do, it was reliable, and it worked. A new model came out in 1980 with styling that sort of harkened to the Jeep Wrangler while still having a very unique quality. Nobody could ever argue that this looked like a copy of a Jeep. It just doesn't. I mean, it shared some of the features, you know, fold down window, at least on the convertible version, and, you know, flip back hood and all that sort of stuff, round headlights. But otherwise, nah, I'm not buying it. There have been a lot of you know, Japanese or otherwise Asian copies of American icons. And while this borrowed from the Wrangler, I don't think it borrowed that much. I really think it's its own thing. But again, that second-gen model was very popular. It was all over the world. Americans started looking at it and saying, hey, you know, why the hell can't we have the kind of fun that they're having everywhere else? And you know, Suzuki agreed. So in 1986, they brought the thing over to America, 85 as an 86 model. They thought they'd sell about 14,000 of them. They were going to slowly tool up their American dealerships. And instead, it absolutely exploded. They predicted 14,000. They actually sold 47,000. They ran these, you know, funny little ads on TV and in the newspapers, that sort of thing. It had cross-gender appeal. Don't get me started on gender crap. It had cross-gender appeal. Women and men both loved it. Women, because it was cute. You know, I know that sounds sexy. I don't care. I mean, it's true, and you know it's true. And guys, at least the ones who didn't think it was cute, found out that it was an incredible off-roader, that it had tremendous off-roading ability, certainly on parallel with the Jeep Wrangler. You know, some of the things that are important off-roading is having low-end torque, which this thing has. It's got a multiplying transfer case that, you know, helps it get over objects. It's got the you know, the angle of attack with the front, so you want the front wheels as far forward as you can. Well, there you go. You got the front wheels almost parallel with the headlights. So, so you hit the object pretty quick. No big overhangs anywhere. And then departure, same. Very, very little to catch on the back of the vehicle. It just ended up being a terrific and beloved off-roader, and that drove its popularity. And they just nailed it. And of course, on top of that, it's very simple, very easy to operate, very dependable. And then the main thing, it was cheap. It was 2/3 the price of a Jeep Wrangler. It came in at like $6,500, and that instantly made it. There've always been kid cars. There's little box things that were out, after my time, but I don't know, they're Kias or Hyundais or Scions or something, but all the kids drove them, and because they could get in them, and they could even have new ones, and that was the way it was with these Samurais. I remember in high school, there was a fair portion of kids who got these things new because their parents could afford to buy them for them, even the ones who weren't particularly rich, and they were cool. So not only was it an entry-level attainable item, but it was one that sort of bestowed coolness on whoever was driving it. And if a high school cheerleader drove it to school, she didn't care that it had solid front and rear axles, body on frame, ladder frame type stuff that a real four-wheel drive had. She just liked the way it looked. And they just started selling like absolute. They outsold the Jeep more than 2-1. This was a love affair that would not last, and in fact, it was sort of artificially broken, and was really a tragic story. Consumer Reports, okay, they do tests on. Consumers Union is the main, outfit. But Consumer Reports, you go buy it, and they do tests on all these cars. And generally speaking, they love Japanese cars. But during the testing on the Samurai, in sort of avoidance maneuvers, they managed to roll one over. And they thought, oh my God, okay, we've got to take this further. So they ended up doing more testing on it. They got it to roll again. They labeled it unsafe. They had, video of the thing with outriggers on it so it wouldn't roll, and it became a huge media scandal for Suzuki. Everyone, the kids are, if America reacts to anything, they overreact, and that's exactly what happened with this. People went absolutely nuts. They just thought the car would roll over in their driveway. Came out later on that Consumer Reports had actually done everything within their power to make the car appear more dangerous than it was, when in fact it really was no different from any of the other, the GMC Jimmy or the Chevy Blazer or Jeep Grand Wagoneer. They all had the same propensity with a high field of gravity, but they got the Suzuki to roll after trying 47 times. You could hear the managers in the background saying, hey, driver, make this thing roll. Do what you can to make it roll. Suzuki ended up suing them later, but by then it was just too late. The hit job had been done. It turned out the whole thing was just geared to screw the Samurai over. And it's a shame because the Suzuki Samurai went away in America in 1995. There's now a third and fourth generation that have come out. And we would have them today if it wasn't for that crap, that Ralph Nader style crap, and would be enjoying them and wouldn't be any less safe than we are in any other car. So it's just a great example of how, I guess there were no clicks back then, but this media obsession with getting attention, they didn't care who they screwed over to make it happen, and that's exactly what happened to the poor Sammy. So I'll do a quick thing, all right? Let's just, no, I'm going to pause for 1 minute, then we'll come back and get into the rest of it. All right, so let's keep rolling. Very quickly, when this thing hit the road as a 1987 model, let's take a quick look at the events that were going on at the time. So in 87, the big news of the day, you had the stock market crash. They called it Black Monday, October 19th of '87, and everything plummeted, absolutely plummeted, and sent shockwaves through everything, and everyone was miserable. But you know, as per usual, of course, it all recovered and went on to be fine. You had the Reagan-Gorbachev summit. That was a big deal. You know, those two got together, and I think Genesis made a video about it. Everybody had AIDS in '87. That was kind of a big thing. And no, not everybody had AIDS, but, you know, AIDS became the talk of the world. You know, at least in pop culture. The Iran-Contra hearings went on. You remember Oliver North became a hero to some, you know, villain to others, and you know, the media went after Reagan the best they could. Prozac was launched, which has probably, you know, helped a significant amount of people, including myself. The Simpsons debuted. You know, it's still going today. It started as a part of the Tracy Ullman show, and otherwise, yeah. I mean, there was some kind of supernova going on as well. It was a pretty big year. TV shows. You had the Cosby Show. You had Family Ties. Was you know, Michael J. Fox, of course, at the time, pretty big star. You had Cheers. You know, who didn't love Cheers? The Golden Girls. Show that had cross-cultural appeal. I always thought they should have had a Matlock tie-in where one of them dated him or something. I think that would have been great. And Murder, She Wrote with, you know, Angela Lansbury doing her thing. Top 5 songs, '87, With or Without You by U2 was absolutely enormous. Whitney Houston had the I Wanna Dance with Somebody tune. You know, apparently keyed up on something while she was doing it. You had Faith by George Michael before we knew he was gay. Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, which has become like an internet meme thing of the world. I mean, and you know, it is the world's most irritating song. There is absolutely no question about that. So he probably deserves it. And then Def Leppard, you know, they had that Hysteria album, which of course I had in my car at the time and I enjoyed. Pour Some Sugar on Me was the big tune from that. But I love that one song where they had Reagan talking in the end and the sound of bombs and missiles going off. You know, I don't think I was supposed to like it, but I did. And I thought it was pretty good. God's a War or some Dog's a War, who knows. I think Michael Jackson also released that Bad album. Back to the car. So you've got, you know, incredibly simple styling. And this car is just proof that simplicity, look at the flies. What the, God damn it. This car is just proof that simplicity and quality and durability almost always work. And they do. I mean, the design is basically 2 boxes. You've got some lovely body creases and angles, which sort of make it look a little bit more aggressive. You know, I don't know if I mean, obviously you couldn't call it the sumo wrestler because it's tiny. I don't know if samurais are small or not, but this one is. The round headlights, great, nice 4-wheel drive feature. You know, very simple black bumpers, white steel wheels, which I think look better than whatever alloys they came out with later. Exterior door hinges, great. Doors that would come off, of course, and on the convertibles, tops that would come off. Very simple, big rectangular back window. And the back here, you've got this sort of tailgate, you know, side swing thing. And there's not much you could say about it. There really isn't. I mean, but it's a simple, very handsome design, and it appealed to everybody at the time before, of course, Consumer Reports killed it. Yeah, it's cute. You know, forgive me for saying it, but it is. And at the same time, it also looks macho enough to, you know, be driven by someone who's a pretty serious off-roader, which of course it could do. You know, it got great gas mileage. I've been driving it for 2 days. I haven't seen the needle move. It starts up every time, and it's just happy to be doing what it does. So, have a look under the hood. Look at these things. They're everywhere. So, Beetle style, it has the trunk release inside the glove box, which is a little weird. I'll try to do all this one-handed if I can. Oh, God. All right, there it is. So, We have progressed very far from the first 20 horsepower engine in the Hope Star into what is now a 63 huge horsepower in this 1.3 liter inline four-cylinder, Suzuki engine. Carbureted, simple, easy, likes to run, very, very happy. It's like the Miata of off-roaders, this thing. It's just a vehicle that doesn't quit and is just happy to be running and tugging along. I think Patrick ended up putting a new carb on it. Don't remember what was wrong with the old one. It was probably fine too, like the rest of the car, but he did it anyway. And, things like the jack being under the hood, kind of neat. He put this auxiliary. He had plans to put a big radio in the car, so he was going to have a second battery. Also put in a high amp alternator, a Delco alternator down there, but never ended up putting the radio in it, which I'm fine with. Still has the factory radio, but it does have that auxiliary tray and the alternator to handle it if you ever want to put a big radio in this one. But it's very simple. You've got a solid front axle. You've got a simple transfer case with a gear multiplier. Basically a solid rear axle. Just later on, I think they became independent or coil springs, but as far as off-roading goes, this is the setup to have. And you could only get them with the 5-speed manual gearbox. So, simplicity ruled the day, and it worked. Remember, 14,000 predicted, 47,000 sold. So it tells you that people will end up getting excited and go for stuff that, that does its job without too much fuss. No frills on this thing, but it didn't matter. It looked good, it drove good, it was cheap, and, used very little gas and had some panache to it, and that's what it took. So what a shame that Consumer Reports killed it and that we don't still have these things around today. Anyway, I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to get my crap in the back, and then we're going to go for a drive. So bear with me one moment. All right, I've switched over to the iPhone because it's just easier to hold that while I'm driving. But before I put my crap in the back, I thought I'd show you inside the rear area. Now, he does still have the original rear seats, which will come with the auction, but he wanted to put a stereo in here, didn't think he was going to use them, so he just left him out. Even though the old carpet was fine, frankly, he ended up buying this super high-end carpet kit for it, which I admit is very nice and fits very nice, but the thing had 40,000 miles and pretty nice carpet to begin with. Anyway, all the jams have been painted and lovingly painted by a, very professional body shop. This was all the seam sealer stuff he was talking about that he did the work on. All in here, all around here, he ground out all the old stuff and put in new stuff. He said he even did places you couldn't see, just everywhere. New seam sealer down at the rocker panel area, just, all over the car, this kind of stuff. He just said it was, you could tell it was old and weathered, and now it's all nice and new. So, man, this thing has an epic paint job on it. It looked great before, but I can't argue that it doesn't look a lot better now. So, anyway, there it is. You get pretty good luggage room in this thing. You could fit some children back there. I don't see any straps or hooks to lash them down with, so they're just going to have to bounce around. They can't hang on to these two little braces there. And I guess, if these things were to roll over, the hardtop's probably the way to go because it's pretty structural and, you'll be safe. But again, it was a hit job, man. And it's a shame because it even persists today. I posted a picture of this on X, and some of the responders, oh, don't roll it, don't roll. Well, you know what, man, don't let the media win. Don't let them, trick you into believing stupidity, which is what Consumer Reports did just to get more sales. And it was cruel and it was stupid. And they should be punished for it. Suzuki eventually won the lawsuit, but by then it was too late. Anyway, you can see a nice big cargo area there. Lovely refinished black bumper, lovely taillights, exhaust pipe. Even has a little place to put a hitch if you want. I guess you tow a jet ski. I don't think you're towing any scarabs around with it or anything, or front end loaders. But and again, it is kind of torquey. Let me get my crap in here. These windows do pop out, by the way, for venting. Nice stuff. I do love, and you can kind of see it here, these, maybe down here, these tires are white walls that are turned in, which is so appropriate because these cars came that way. And it was really the only limitation on their off-road capability was the street tires that they put on them. So it is, you know, most of these things, you see them now, they're lifted, they're beefed, they're, you know, turned into mud trucks. It's pretty rare to find one, particularly a coupe like this, a hardtop, in all original condition. And I think that's pretty neat. You see the 5-speed logo, the Suzuki logo. He had he didn't want to do the graphics. You know, I probably would have because I think they were cool, but I get it. But you know, if you want to add them, it's not going to be that hard to do. There's a bunch of different styles of factory graphics most of these things had when they came out. But you know, again, he's a subtle guy, and I do love the love the steel wheels. You can see it has locking hubs. I have to do a video at some point for Bring a Trailer of the 4-wheel drive system working. It works great. You know, you put it in neutral, you move the transfer case, lock the hubs, and you're, you know, good to go. Very simple mirrors, hand adjust. Inside, there's the key beeper still working, which is really annoying. Let me pull that out. Nowhere to put Canadians, man. Nowhere, unless they just want to sit free in the back, which they probably will. But anyway, ultimate simplicity inside. Very simple dash, very simple cluster. This one has air conditioning, although compressor took a dump the other day, so he has a new one ordered. So I'm driving around with the windows down, which is miserable for me on a humid June morning, but I do suffer for people. Put that down. So anyway, it'll have a new compressor, receiver, dryer, all that kind of crap, and should be nice and cold when it's done. You can see the VIN plate here on this. It's just so simple, even a little vinyl steering wheel. And simplicity works. He hated the seats that it had for whatever reason, so he replaced them with these Corbeau buckets with kits to put them in a Samurai. So it's a very professional and nice fit. But if you want to go back to original, the original seats, which were in miraculous shape for a, you know, Samurai, because they were a weak point on it, they will come with the auction. So you get best of both worlds. You can hang on to these if you want them, or if you want to go back, you can. The carpet, again, very nice fit. You can see very little wear on the pedals because, again, just 44,000 miles on this thing. As sort of shown by the Carfax and the overall condition. Very inexpensive and quickly, although there, you know, I will say there's some style to the door panel. It's not just vinyl. I wonder if that's what the JX option added. Of course, window cranks. It's just an absolute, you know, exercise in simplicity and ruggedness. So, all right, let's fire this thing up. And again, it just wants to run. I mean, it's this thing's whole reason for living is running. Just very, very happy to do it. Let me pull up to a shady area so the sun isn't interfering. But there you see a very, very elegant, simplistic instrument cluster. You got your temp, you got your gas. Actually, it doesn't look like it's moved a little now. 90 mile an hour speedometer, which I don't think it's capable of. You got a tach, which is great. You got a clock, although the digits have, you know, 80s style gone away. Here's your AC controls. Awesome Clarion 2-knob radio. Love it. Glad he didn't get a chance to change it because I just think that's cool. It's even a little bit high end with auto reverse and stuff. And, you know, has the old school dial. I just think it's neat. Very simple shifter with boot. There's your transfer case. There's your e-brake. You got an ashtray because people still smoked in the 80s. You've got glove box. Up here you got your rear view mirror. You got some sun visors without... Do you have mirrors? You do. You got a cocaine mirror on that side, but not on the passenger side. So there it is. Suzuki loves the driver, but not the lady in the passenger seat. Yeah, maybe it's the lady driving it. Let's go. Actually, I'm going to pause there. Peter's gate broke again. I have to close it manually. Bear with me one moment. Peter just told me he fixed the gate. He was so proud, and here it broke like 2 days later. So he's been fighting that gate for as long as I've known him. So, you know, these are thought of as slow, and they are. I mean, I think it was like Road and Track or Car, and it was like their slowest 0 to 60 time in quarter mile of anything that year, and probably many years before and after. But they're fine for traffic. They're better than they get credit for. You know, they keep up with the flow. You're not gonna, you know, do any whole shot launches or anything, but it's not like an old 240D Mercedes where you got people behind you honking either. You know, you can definitely get up with enough pep to keep up with the flow of traffic and not be a pain in everyone's ass. You know, the suspension is actually pretty fine for what's really a very rugged off-road vehicle. It handles bumps without breaking your spine too much. The steering, I believe, is recirculating ball, which is, again, great for off-roading. And, you know, like the Mercedes of the era, gives it, you know, a more substantial feel. It's not quite as nimble as rack and pinion, but it is more durable. And does, I think, feel more substantial. And I hope that road noise isn't as bad as I think it is, the wind noise with the windows down. I won't keep talking for too long anyway, so we'll just go through a quick 5 gears to show you that and keep the ball rolling. So, I almost hit that nice woman on the bike. You know, old ladies look at me suspiciously all the time. Like I'm going to pull out some sort of a switchblade and take them out or something. They just, you know, and they aim their shopping carts at me. I don't know what it is about these old ladies around here, but they are just miserable people. And it would just be nice to see them smile for a change. And we got the police at the intersection waiting. Thank God I'm not in a car capable of getting pulled over, so anyway, there it is. And like I said, you know, I haven't done many videos in the last couple of months. I know. I don't honestly think I'll be able to get many going in the next couple months while the move is still happening, this interminable move. But once I'm established up there, definitely I'm going to try and get back on a schedule, at least get a video out per week. There may be some variations. I may do some road trips. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know how easy it's going to be to find cars up there, and we'll keep something going. So thank you very much for having a look. Really, really appreciate it, and we will see you with the next one. Take care.